Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On Point Politics. And today I'm going to be giving a detailed breakdown of the 2024 presidential election and my latest forecast. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Now, the main reason why I actually do update these pretty frequently is because the data changes every single day and new events could occur at any moment. And so I think it's important to have a more, live feed of essentially what is going on and more frequent updates of the presidential election. As of right now, Donald Trump leads the national average by around almost 2 percentage points. That Rasmussen poll really bumped up his tick, in the national average. He was at about 1.4 before this. Now he jumped up a whole half percentage point, which has made certain things look better for him. And what's quite interesting is that all the talking heads essentially say, well, this is going to be a competitive race. But, when you look at the polling data, you look at how much the third party candidates are eating up from President Biden. You look at the previous aggregate where Donald Trump was essentially underestimated by around 3 points. We see that. This is not looking good for Biden. And since Donald Trump is a former president and Biden is very unpopular, Biden's incumbency actually hurts him this time rather than actually helping him. He actually has an incumbency weakness instead of a incumbency advantage. And so, looking at a breakdown of the aggregate, we see I expect Donald Trump to be underestimated by 4.5 points. We see the model projection is around plus 6.4 for the national environment. Biden's approval rating is basically over 20 points worse than what it was on election day. We also see in the New York Times slash in a college poll. This is the best example of what I'm about to show you guys because they break it down very nicely. They have a Trump plus 7 poll, which is pretty close to what this is saying. And we see that right now they ask those people, who did you vote for in 2020? And it shows a Biden plus 3 sample, which is actually only 1.5 percentage points off from the real result. So when you adjust it, you get around Trump plus 5.5, which is within a point of what I have here. And what they did is they actually polled the swing states and then they actually polled the same people, who did you vote for in 2020? And we get numbers very similar. For example, Wisconsin plus 7 for Biden. What's very interesting is that the national result for Wisconsin was around 0.6 in 2020. And if we actually go over here, if you actually look up Wisconsin in 2020, let's see if we can actually pull it up right over here. I don't think we're going to be able to pull it up, but either way, essentially the national aggregate had Biden up by 6.7 percentage points. He was up 6.7 percentage points, and he only ended up winning it by 0.6. This is a very similar aggregate to what we had back then, and we see in Wisconsin now the poll says it's a tie, and clearly the pollsters have not necessarily fixed their polling data. And when we look at this, we basically see, okay, if you apply the adjusted error and we apply it to the current polling, these are the margins we get. And for example, right now I have Wisconsin at plus Trump 8, essentially. And the adjusted poll has Trump plus 6.4. I have Michigan at plus 6.5 for Trump. The adjusted poll has him up 5.2. Pennsylvania 7.5. We see he's up around 6.8. Nevada 10, 11.5. 6, 5.7. Georgia 9.5. Here it's 12.8 for Trump. So the adjusted poll and what I project for these states, my personal projections, are not that far off. Now, as you guys know, I have been creating election models the past couple of weeks. This is my most popular one, which I've used for quite some time, but I did construct a third and a fourth one to try to get more accurate breakdowns of every single, state essentially. And so what I'm actually going to do, what I'm basically doing here is I'm essentially going to update the national average. That's really what I'm going to do. I'm basically going to be updating this by essentially getting all of my margins together, coupling it with the demographic model, and as well as putting in Gold Crown Politics' margins, as he was the most accurate forecaster in 2020. He was actually able to get every single state right in the previous election. And so that's why I'm including his margins right here. And actually, what's funny is that his model, is included in my second version of the forecast. So that's why I did have his model, because he was the only one that I knew that was able to get the 2020 election 100% correct. And so when you average out, version 2, version 3, version 4 of all the margins, you average out the demographic model and you average out Gold Crown Politics' margins, this is what we get for the Electoral College. And we're actually going to be filling everything out as of right now. And so for now, obviously we have our safe Republican states. These are the states that no matter what, these are going to be going in that safe Republican column. We can also add the state of, I believe, Maine's 2nd congressional district. We'd actually be able to put that there. We can also add in the state of Ohio in that column. We can also add Iowa in that column. Ohio is projected 16.5 points, and we can also see here 16.4 points for Donald Trump in this scenario. South Carolina would be safe, as well as Alaska. We can also add Texas in this column, as Texas is actually projected to be a 15.7 percentage point victory in this forecast as of right now. So clearly Donald Trump starts off with a very good advantage here. We can also see that the state of California is in the safe column. It's around 17 points for Biden. We also see the states of Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland, and DC going safe for President Biden. And that is literally it. Those are all his safe states as of right now. Biden is very much struggling with his core base, and as well as some independent voters, which are swaying the map into an electoral college landslide scenario. We also see the states of Hawaii are likely, basically Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Illinois, and in New Jersey, even to an extent. If we actually go to the testing aggregate, we'll actually be able to see here that New Jersey's just above that 5.3 percentage point margin. The state of New York is semi-competitive, believe it or not. The state of New York is only a 10-point victory in this aggregate. We also see states like Connecticut, Delaware, and Rhode Island be in the likely Democrat column, as well as Maine's 2nd congressional district, bringing Biden to 199 electoral college votes, or 191, excuse me. Now, for the likely Republican states, we see that a lot of these states here, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, Nevada, were once competitive, but because of the huge national shift to the right, we actually see all of these states fall into the Republican likely column. We see Florida at around 13 points for Trump. Georgia in this forecast is around 9 points for Trump. Wisconsin, 7. Same thing for Pennsylvania. Nevada at around 8.5. Michigan at around 6. If we can find North Carolina, we see it's at around 10 points for Donald Trump. So there is a huge margins in all of these states. Arizona at around 8 points. So we see huge margins for the former president in all of these states as of right now, bringing him to 312 electoral college votes, really only leaving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really true competitive states for this cycle. And the reason why Texas votes to the right of Florida this cycle is because you do have the border crisis, and Biden's disapproval rating and polling data are factored into the model. It's not the, most weighted part of the model, but it's definitely a factor in it. And so the border crisis is definitely going to affect the state of Texas the most out of any single state in the nation. And so that's why you see the state of Texas still vote to the right of a state like Florida this election cycle. In 2028, I do expect Florida to vote to the right of Texas by actually quite a significant amount. I actually expect Florida to end up being in the higher likely column in 2028. And so now we're going to be going from west to east, essentially going through all of these states. If we look at the state of New Mexico, it's actually very competitive. It's only a 0.9 victory for Joe Biden, bringing him to 196. There is a lot of white liberals in the Albuquerque area, even though a lot of Hispanics have been moving to the right in a state like New Mexico. I still don't think it's just ready to flip exactly just yet. I did have it as lean Democrat in my previous projection, but obviously I'm just averaging out a bunch of aggregates, the demographic model and Gold Crown Politics' thing to get these margins. So they are going to differ a little bit. So we do have a tilt New Mexico as of right now for Joe Biden. In the state of Minnesota, we see Donald Trump wins the state by about 1.4 percentage points as of right now. This is a state that Biden took the lead in the DDHQ aggregate, but the polling is way closer than what it was in 2020. And Trump's campaign has actually really been trying to go here. And we even see in the primary data, Donald Trump actually got almost the same percentage as Biden did in the primary, because Biden struggled in the city areas that much in the primary. And so that's what you're seeing in this average as of right now. In the state of Nebraska, second, we'll see that it is around a 3-point victory for Donald Trump. This is a very liberal trending district. And so I'm not surprised that it is going lean Republican as of right now, but I do expect it to flip into Donald Trump's column in this scenario. I also have the state of New Hampshire flipping to Donald Trump very narrowly by literally just a tilt margin. It's around a 0.4 percentage point victory for the former president. And the final two states for Joe Biden are going to be Maine at large and Virginia, bringing him to 211 electoral college votes. So basically, from the last video, Donald Trump essentially nets New Hampshire in this scenario because I had him at 323 in the last video. He does net New Hampshire in this latest projection. The state of Virginia is going to be close, and I actually do expect it to be very competitive. It really could go either way. Same thing for Maine at large. All these states are pretty much very competitive as of right now, but I do suspect that because Donald Trump has basically lost some ground in the aggregate compared to a week ago, I do expect a lot of these states to still stay in that Republican column. If you guys did enjoy this analysis of the 2024 presidential election, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this, and I will see you guys very, very soon.